Borodar St Andrews, it is Miss Evans, and I am taking your assembly this morning. So, first things first, our Welsh phrase of the week is Blair my. And Blair my means where is. So, sometimes in year two, we might say Blair my rubber or Blair my pencil when asking for where that item is. So, my challenge to you this week is to see if you can use this at home. So, you might ask your mum for Blair my TV remote or Blair my reading book. So, you're asking for where it is. And if you want to, you could maybe even record you using it and you could send it to me over Twitter so I can see the fantastic Welsh that is going on at home. So, I wanted to talk to you today about being brave. Okay, what is being brave? So, being brave could be that you've tried something new. I know a lot of children in my class have had new scooters and bikes and roller skates, and they might have been a little bit nervous to use those because you're worried about falling over or you might be worried about hurting yourself. But you can be brave and give it a go, knowing that that might not happen. And if it does, it's absolutely fine. I think being brave is not giving up too soon. So you are persevering and pushing yourself to try harder at something that might frighten you a little bit or you might be a little bit wary of. I think being brave is I think our NHS workers are brave. So they are all the people who are looking after us, who are taking care of us, the doctors, the nurses, to make sure that we're all as healthy as we can be. They're probably quite worried at the moment, but they're being brave. Okay, so being brave can look different in a lot of ways. So, how are you brave then? So, some ways I thought is that you might have been trying some new food. New food's quite scary. It can be quite worrying. But why? If you don't try it, how are you going to know if you like it or not? So you need to be brave when trying something new. It might be a little experience as trying a new vegetable, or it might be something a little bit bigger, like doing a bungee jump. Okay? You are being brave when you ask for help. Okay? When you say that you need a little bit more support, you are being brave. Because it can be quite worrying saying, actually, I'm a little bit stuck. And you need to be brave to be able to turn around to your grown up and say, can I have a little bit more support, please? And another way I thought you were being really brave was by being able to be such fantastic home learners as been a little bit different, hasn't it? Once again, we're back off school for a very short amount of time, and that's quite nervous. That's quite worrying. But you guys have been fantastic at being positive and keeping the right mindset. And you are trying your hardest with your home learning, and you are working well with your grown-ups at home, and you are extremely brave for all the changes that are happening around you. So I'm going to share with you a little story about the adventures of St. Paul. And I want you to listen carefully because we're going to think about some questions at the end of the YouTube video. So I'm just going to start it. Hopefully it's going to play for me.
God's story, Paul. So part of God's story is about a man named Paul, and it begins like this. Paul was born in a city called Tarsus. Back then, being born in Tarsus was about as cool as being born in an amusement park. So Paul thought he was cooler than other people, especially the ones who were following Jesus. Paul turned into a real bully. He found ways to get people who were following Jesus thrown in jail, beat up, and even killed. One day, Jesus yelled from the sky, Paul, Paul, why are you acting this way? Then Jesus shined a really bright light, brighter than the sun, right into Paul's eyes. Paul couldn't see anything for 3 days. Kids, never look straight at the sun. Remember what happened to Paul. After Paul could see again, he decided to listen to God. And not just listen. Paul decided to spend his whole life telling people about God and God's son Jesus. Paul knew if he was going to tell people about God, he better get to know God. Paul found different ways to get to know God. Sometimes he fasted, which is when you skip a meal or many meals and spend time praying to God instead. Other times, he snuck off alone so he could sit and listen to God. Paul said getting to know God was like training to run a big race. Sometimes training for a race takes work, especially if you want to win. Just like it can sometimes take hard work to fast or sit quietly and listen to God. But for Paul, knowing God was way better than winning first place, even if the prize was $1 billion. Once Paul knew God, he was so excited that he wanted to tell everyone, even people he didn't know. Paul became a missionary. A missionary is a person who goes to new places and tells people about Jesus. And even while he was doing this, Paul was writing lots and lots of letters telling other people about Jesus. Now sometimes, Paul found out that not everybody wanted to hear about God, but he told them about God anyway, just to make sure everybody had a chance to hear. Have you ever tried talking to somebody when they weren't listening to you? The people started getting really mad at Paul when he talked. They threw rocks at him, beat him up, put him in jail, and even tried to get rid of him completely. Guess what Paul did? He said he'd be happy to go to jail, get beat up, even die, if it means more people know about Jesus. Well, God was with Paul when he was getting beat up and put in jail. One night, God even sent an earthquake to open the doors of the jail so Paul could be free. But instead of escaping, Paul stayed to tell the prison guard about Jesus. Later on, Paul was sent to a bigger city with a bigger jail. To get there, he had to take a boat. During hurricane season, one of the storms hit Paul's boat and it got shipwrecked. Sorry. So he had to swim all the way to a nearby island. Picture swimming in the North Pole with penguins. That's how cold Paul was. But as soon as he saw there were people living on the island, what do you think he did? Yep, he taught them about Jesus. Paul never stopped telling people about Jesus and how Jesus loves everyone and wants to help them stop doing wrong things and teach them how to know him. He got put in jail at least 4 times, was shipwrecked 3 times, and was even bitten by a poisonous snake. But Paul didn't care what happened. He was so happy knowing God that he just wanted everybody else to know God too. And that's the story of Paul.
So, hopefully, you listened really carefully to that story all about Paul. And Paul had to be pretty brave throughout that for a number of reasons because there was a lot going on for him. But Paul stayed strong because of what he believed in. Okay, he was trying his hardest to do what was right and be brave to make sure what he wanted to happen was going to happen. So, just reflecting now on that story, and you can do this in your own time. I want you to think about what did St. Paul have to do to be brave? Okay, what did he have to do in his story? How was he brave? What did he do when things got a little tricky? So, when some obstacles came in his way and they were trying to stop him from spreading the message and trying to share all the fantastic stories he had about Jesus, what did he do? What type of attitude did he have? Was he negative? Did he give up? Or did he persevere on through? And I want you to think about how are you going to try and be a little bit more brave? And that might be that you are going to try and ask for help when you're stuck. You might try and be a little bit more brave by telling people how you're feeling. It might be that you find it really hard to tell people how you're feeling, so you're going to work with somebody to do that. It might be that you are going to push yourself and try to use those roller skates and go as fast as you can without falling over. Okay, it's what are you going to do to be brave? So that's personal for you.